Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the November 2024 LF Decentralized Trust Financial Markets Mortgage Subgroup. Always a mouthful. We've got an exciting agenda. I think some of you joined early. We always have people joining as we go along. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, as always, please note that this meeting is being conducted under the umbrella of the LF Decentralized Trust. So we ask that everyone abide by the antitrust policy and code of conduct. The antitrust policy, we're sharing it on the screen, states that we avoid discussion of company-specific pricing, products, and projects. We don't make negative remarks about other companies or products. And the code of conduct means that we trust each other. We treat each other with respect, we don't discriminate, we communicate constructively. We fully support the policy of openness, equity, and inclusion. Okay, everyone's welcome to our meetings. This is intended to be an open forum for sharing ideas and having constructive discussions. These are some of the members, premier members that are part of the LF Decentralized Trust. Just showing this to be informative. Hadera Hashgrave has just recently joined Banco Central de Brazil, Polygon, and Tata Consulting. If you're new here, here are some tips for how to get comfortable. Feel free to lurk. Don't wait for an invitation. As I said, this is meant to be an open forum. Just communicate as freely and openly as you feel comfortable. Here's our agenda for today. We've covered the general introduction, antitrust and code of conduct. James will then will go over some community information, and then James will provide an update on blockchain in the mortgage industry. And then we'll have our guest, Daniel Szego, who's a DLT architect. You heard him speaking at the beginning. We'll discuss an emerging threat to blockchain, quantum computing. We think this is a very interesting topic, so let's dive right in. Okay, we always cover the slide at the beginning of each meeting. This is to reinforce that we're all on the same blockchain journey. We may be at different points. We may be using different technologies, but this group is meant to help everyone on their blockchain journey demonstrate the feasibility of blockchain technology, regardless of the platform that you're using, and its applicability to mortgage industry use cases. So we want to really help mortgage companies solve any issues that they're maybe facing or any questions that may be having around implementing blockchain within the mortgage industry. So the next couple slides, I'll just go through really quickly. It just covers some community information. This slide provides the different resources for the Linux Foundation or the distributed LF Decentralized Trust. It's going to take me a while to get used to that name change. The second from the bottom is the link to our wiki. This contains the knowledge base of mortgage industry use cases and recordings of our different meetings, and James will cover this in his discussion as well. Okay, how do I access this information? You will need an LFID. I'm not going to spend any time on this, but you can access this information on this slide. Also, you can get a Hyperledger Fabric certification. Highly encourage this to underscore your expertise. And then just some general blockchain training that's available. I've taken this training. It's something that I thought was very worthwhile. And as everyone who's been on this meeting before knows, it's free, and that's one of my favorite words. So now let's go ahead and hand it over to James Hendrick, who's going to discuss the status of blockchain in the mortgage industry. James, take it away.
Marvin, thank you very much. And just want to wish everybody a happy holidays as we're halfway through November. This is actually our final live podcast for 2024. We will have a video recap coming out in December talking about all the topics that we've covered throughout this year. So whether you're here live with us or you are watching this online, thank you for being an active attendee and continue to look for additional information as we move into December. Let's pop on to the first slide, Marvin. So the last couple of presentations, we've been talking about blockchain in the real estate arena. And I wanted to, close off our presentations this year, starting out with one more article relevant to blockchain and real estate transformation. So the author starts with a general description of blockchain technology and how in real estate transactions, blockchain can replace centralized data resources like land records. Examples of benefits include access to global and public assets that are largely limited by geographic area. Tokenization technology converts ownership of property to a share of a property into a token on a blockchain, and this token can then be bought and sold on a peer-to-peer exchange. This provides advantages, allowing them to realize capital gains in the property sphere. They can earn that capital by investing in less developed regions. As an example, they provide a European investor with limited resources could own a fraction of a business park in New York City. Blockchain enables the trading of public assets such as land or government buildings, which is otherwise difficult to execute nationally. And blockchain in real estate also provides advantages in data management, property management, tokenization, mortgages, and investor tenant identity verification, all topics that we have talked about throughout this year. Of course, there is always the challenge blockchain presents in our industry, regulatory hurdles, the high costs of setup and training staff, and in reality, resistance from traditional players that are heavily invested in the current model. So that includes title companies, notaries, and escrow companies, for example, which could potentially become obsolete. Towards the end of the article, it briefly touches upon how integrating AI could automate property appraisals, rental portfolio management, and even property investments by optimizing a portfolio's overall value based on the accumulated data. Moving right along, Marvin. This year, we've also been talking a lot about AI. And so we pulled together an article that talks about the 2024 Mortgage Cadence Ascent Users Conference. It was very AI focused with presentations that were key topics in a number of sessions. George Morales, the national sales director for Mortgage Cadence, was one of the master of ceremonies and was quoted saying, AI has been all over the news in our space for a year or two, but really what's on our mind is how AI is going to make a difference in the mortgage space for lenders and consumers. One of the most intriguing developments is the potential for AI to revolutionize customer-facing roles. For instance, AI systems functioning as virtual loan officers, providing rates pricing, and eligibility criteria to customers. These types of advancements can streamline the initial stages of the mortgage process, reducing origination, which is mostly spent on sales resources. It does present questions, though. Would an AI loan officer need an MLS number? I hadn't thought of that before till I read this article. Beyond customer interactions, AI can enhance support ticket management, consolidate responses, and generate training materials. This not only provides efficiencies, but also ensures consistency in communication and support. Lenders are also interested in utilizing AI to analyze vast amounts of data, identifying market trends, predicting borrower behavior, and optimizing pricing strategies. So it'll really be interesting to see as we continue to move into the AI universe over the next couple of years as to which of these come to fruition and where we start seeing AI deployed by some of the bigger players. Actually, going along with this, I read an article recently about chief AI officers and how it's predicted over the next 2 years, you're going to see that becoming a much more prominent role at companies as well. So let's go ahead and move into the next article, Marvin. All right, focusing on our topic today of quantum computing and blockchain. So this is a great article that starts out with understanding the basics of quantum computing in association with blockchain. Unlike traditional computing, which uses ones and zero bits, quantum computers use qubits. Qubits can exist in multiple states simultaneously due to a property known as superposition. Quantum computers utilize this entanglement, allowing qubits to be interconnected and making computations exponentially faster than modern computers. This presents potential threats in relation to blockchain, from the potential to break public key cryptography, exposing hash function vulnerabilities, to manipulating smart contracts. To address these concerns, solutions are being developed. So, research into quantum resistant cryptographic algorithms to replace existing public key systems, designed to withstand quantum attacks by using more complex mathematical structures. Ethereum 2.0 is an example of one of these projects. There's also hybrid cryptographic approaches combining classical cryptography with quantum resistant algorithms, allowing blockchain networks to adapt to current security needs while integrating quantum resilience gradually. And quantum resistant consensus mechanisms, such as proof of stake, can reduce dependence on mining and limit quantum risks as they rely less on computational power and more on financial stakes for network security, which is less likely to be impacted by quantum computing. While it sounds concerning, there are upsides. So quantum computing could eventually lead to more secure encryption method benefiting blockchain. Quantum algorithms could optimize blockchain processing, reducing energy use, increasing transaction speeds, and improving scalability, as well as improving smart contracts by enhancing efficiency and functionality of the contracts, making them more robust and flexible. So, in a couple minutes, Daniel's going to be talking to us and providing us more information. But if you're looking to understand some of the basics of quantum computing and its relationship with blockchain, this is also a great article to start with. And Marvin, on to the last article. So I chose this article because it touches upon three of the topics we've been talking about this year, from AI to blockchain to now quantum computing. So this article focuses on fraud challenges in the mortgage transactions, ranging from wire fraud, title fraud, and generational land ownership transfers and sales. And while the importance of data assurance is at the forefront in the mortgage industry, some of the topics this article covers, as I mentioned, talk about AI-powered analytics leveraging machine learning algorithms and how they analyze vast amounts of data and identify patterns and anomalies indicating fraudulent activity. An example would be employment information discrepancy on mortgage applications. It also discusses using blockchain technology hashing to ensure that changes to data are detectable, providing additional layers of security. And then the final concept it talks about is post-quantum encryption to ensure that mortgage data remains secure against future quantum threats, involving cryptographic algorithms resistant to quantum attacks and protecting sensitive information throughout the life cycle. The article provides examples of how these can be deployed in mortgage audits, fraud detection for both wire and title, and land ownership transfers. By leveraging these technologies, the mortgage industry can stay ahead of emerging threats and adopt robust data assurance practices that will be crucial for maintaining the integrity and security of transactions. To find out more about this particular topic and others from today's presentation, next slide, Marvin. Visit the Mortgage Industry Subgroup wiki page. You can see here online. You can access previous presentations as well as find links to these and past articles over on the right-hand side. Over on the far left-hand side in the menu, you'll have links to all of our previous presentations going back to 2021, as well as all of the articles that we've covered in the past. We have now curated a library of well over 400 articles over the last few years, covering topics from blockchain to AI to now we've got a few in there relevant to quantum computing. Marvin, let's move on to the next slide. And just as a general reminder, if you're looking for information, the LF Decentralized Trust YouTube channel is out there. All of these recorded presentations are published there. We also have our YouTube playlist that places them all together, and Alma is starting to drop links into the chat. There is a Discord channel out there if you'd like to communicate via there. And, definitely follow the LinkedIn page because we're always publishing stuff out to LF Decentralized Trust LinkedIn page whenever we've got presentations and upcoming announcements. And on to the next slide, Marvin. Up here, I will pass it back over to you to introduce our guest speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, James. That's always some really interesting information. As mortgage professionals and blockchain technologists, we all try to stay abreast of blockchain technical developments. Our speaker, Daniel Szego, DLT architect, has spoken on numerous blockchain-related topics and has spoken to our group before on tokenization and financial services. Today, Daniel will discuss a very recent development, the threat of quantum computing to blockchain. For example, Chinese researchers have determined that a quantum computer from Canadian firm D-Wave can compromise RSA encryption. And also notably, key InfoSec groups such as NIST has already started discussing post-quantum cryptography, one of the topics that James just mentioned. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Daniel. Daniel, take it away, please.
Thanks a lot. Let me just try to share my screen. Can you just give me access for sharing my screen?
You should be able to share now.
Yeah, that looks good. Awesome. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really an honor to present on any kind of blockchain topics in any kind of Linux Foundation and Hyperledger groups. I apologize, I just stopped my video. My network is not necessarily the best, so either I share myself or I share my slides, and I would say my slides are more important than me, probably. So let me start with quantum threats and blockchain systems. Perhaps just a few words on myself. I'm a software engineer dealing with different blockchain topics for a while. And then partly I have public blockchain systems, even partly Solidity, smart contract development. But I have a strong focus on different Hyperledger or already Linux Foundation topics as well. And one of the very interesting topics which is quantum threats and blockchain systems. Anyway, it's not going to be just blockchain systems. I would say it's going to be quantum threats and any kind of IT systems. That's going to be the focus. There will be a few exceptions where I really focus on blockchains, but anyway, anything that I say will be more general in a sense that not just blockchain systems can be affected, but any kind of IT systems, especially any kind of centralized IT system as well. So that's gonna be the agenda for today. So first, I'm gonna introduce like quantum computers, generally some quantum algorithms and applications and vulnerability of cryptography. Then I will introduce a little bit more mission critical blockchain use cases. But I mean, this is not gonna be just blockchain use cases. I would say this can be any kind of financial IT applications. And what I'm gonna give is a high level quantum threat analysis. And I will introduce some more of the topics through this analysis. So it's gonna have topics like threat model of a blockchain system, but more generally threat model of any kind of IT system, some of the impact analysis, quantum readiness, some preventions possibilities that we can have. And then I just conclude with an overall risk evaluation and we can have some questions and answers and discussions at the end. So with that, let's just start with the first slide, and this is gonna be quantum computers in one slide, which is pretty tricky. So I would say we might as well have thousands of slides on quantum computers, but it's gonna be just a one slide introduction. So the point is for quantum computers that we got very small physical objects, like molecules, atoms, subatomic elements, electrons or photons, and these very small objects behave totally differently than big objects. So practically we got something which is the wave-particle duality. So these very small objects sometimes behave as wave and sometimes as particle, and then it just tricky to have a good theory which describes anything or everything. in a consistent way. So I mean, physics still discussing which is the best way to interpret this phenomena. But despite that, some of the basics or theoretical basics are not clear and sometimes not even consistent, there's a way of building quantum computers on top. And the idea is that we have something which is a higher level of abstraction and which is like bit or qubit. So it's practically the idea is similar than in classical computing. So we get like an abstraction which is a bit. And as soon as we get bit, it's just we can start building computers or circuits based on bits. So we just don't need to cover like all the physical basics, all the theoretical and physical basics below the bit level. So that's practically the same idea. We just introduce a concept which is similar to bit, and that's gonna be qubit. And as soon as we have qubit, we can start building computers with the help of qubit, and then not covering all the details of quantum physics or subatomic electron photons theory or wave particle duality. So from a conceptual point of view, bit is something which is like a value which is either 0 or 1. Qubit is like more complex in a sense. It's like it's called superposition. So we got practically a value which can be both in 0 and in 1, and practically in all possible values between 0 and 1. That's what we call a superposition. And then again, we got just this picture. So on the left, we have like classical 0 and 1. And on the right, we have a qubit, which is all the values between 0 and 1 in the same time. And well, tricky part, we have a measurement somewhere. And as soon as we measure such a qubit, then we got 1 or 0. But that's just after the measurement. So the idea or the strength of a quantum computer that as soon as we have kind of a superposition, which is all the values between 0 and 1 in the same time, in n qubit we can represent 2 to the n state parallelly. So that gives like an exponential speed comparing with classical computers, and that's what gives like or that can give something which is a quantum advantage. Of course, the situation is not so easy because it's just not so easy to build up quantum computers, even if we have like qubits as a higher level abstractions. Practically, we have like two different directions building up quantum computers. And one is, which is not really a computer or not a classical computer, that's called the quantum annealing. In quantum annealing, we got qubits, but these qubits are very noisy. So we can't really build up like classical algorithms on that. But what we can do here is that we can use this quantum annealing computer for solving optimization problems. So it's like we can use simulations, we can do optimization. So if you want to use like simulation and optimization in like finance or logistic, or we want to do like better weather forecast, or we want to do like biological simulations, everything can be done in a more efficient way with quantum computer, with quantum annealing. There are some ideas as well that if we want to compute like physical models of quantum computing, quantum physics, then we should use basically a quantum annealing, a quantum computer, which is a quantum annealing style of quantum computer, just because those simulations are so complex as well. But again, that's not like a classical computer, not like a classical Turing machine. It's more like something which is like solving optimization and simulation problems. So that's one way of building a quantum computer. The second way is using something which is called as quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement means that we got two qubits that are somehow connected. So for instance, but connected in a deterministic way. So if one qubit is set to 0, then the other one set to 1 with 100 probability. That's like kind of a connection between two qubits. And from the physical point of view, or theoretical point of view, that's a tricky thing. But if we don't want to cover all the physical or theoretical details, what we can say that just based on the fact that we get some deterministic connection between two qubits, we can do something which is called a quantum gate. So quantum gate is nothing more than having like a deterministic connection somehow between two qubits or among 3 or 4 qubits. That's what a quantum gate. And with the help of quantum gates, we can build up more complex computing units, which is practically quantum circuits. Just analog, the analogy is kind of similar with classical computers. We got gates, and based on gates, we can build up like circuits, and that's basically our computer. That's our computation model. So that's the other direction. And we got two famous algorithms in sense of cryptography, of course. One is the so-called Shor algorithm, which is from Peter Shor, and it's for factoring large numbers extremely fast in polynomial time. That's one of the famous algorithms. The second one is the so-called Groover's algorithm, which is quantum search. It's practically, we got a list of, we got an unsorted list, and the idea is that we should search for one item, for one desired value. And then with some tricky like inference amplifications, we can get the search value and in a square root performance time practically. So from a cryptographic point of view, these are two most important algorithms, and both are based on quantum circuits. So quantum gates and quantum circuits. So that's the direction basically. And just to hint back to the article that you mentioned, so the Chinese researchers actually developed some kind of so like D-Wave, the quantum computer mentioned here, that was mentioned here, D-Wave. D-Wave is based on quantum annealing. So practically it can be more like used for solving optimization and simulation problems. It can be used for running like gates or circuits. And the idea from the Chinese researchers were that basically RSA can be broken not just by classical circuits and quantum gates, but by a hybrid architecture that uses both quantum annealing and quantum entanglement. So practically they just figured out a hybrid architecture for factoring large numbers, which is again by quantum circuits and by quantum annealing as well. That was like the innovation there. So just focusing on cryptography, and then focusing on these two algorithms that I mentioned, we can see here the problems. And the problem is that, so first we got like, we got like cryptographic primitives with trapdoor functions. These cryptographic primitives usually are, that's like digital signature, most practically. They use like a one-way function, which is computationally difficult to resolve. This one-way function is usually like prime factorization in RSA and elliptic curve cryptography in elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. And then it is used again practically in most asymmetric cryptography. So not just for digital signature, but for key exchange as well, for instance. And the problem is, or the biggest problem is, that Shor algorithm solves this in polynomial time. So these primitives gonna be practically useless. So we can't use these RSA key exchange or elliptic curve digital algorithms anymore. They are just totally cracked, basically. And the problem is that we got, for instance, the TLS key exchange, which is similar or which is based on the same primitives. And then, well, if you just consider that, if you just put in like HTTPS, that's practically based on TLS, yeah, that might have a big impact. And we might as well argue that, well, I mean, quantum computers still not crack used RSA algorithms or HTTPS. But despite of the fact that there's no efficient quantum computer at the moment or good enough quantum computer at the moment, there can be attacks realized. And this is, for instance, the store now, decrypt later attack. It means that, okay, we know that quantum computers are still not efficient enough for tracking everyday used like HTTPS, TLS key exchange algorithms, but they might be good enough like in 5 years or 10 years. So what hackers can do, they just store the traffic. They just like store traffic among banks, which cannot be cracked at the moment, but which might be cracked like in 5 years or 10 years. And even if they just crack in 5 years or 10 years, there might be data which is critical enough, so they just shouldn't be like revealed like not even in 5 years or 10 years. This is the so-called store now, decrypt later attack. So this is the biggest problem. There's a smaller problem as well, which is the Groover's algorithm. The Groover's algorithms can crack, for instance, or like symmetric key encryption or symmetric encryption, and can crack like hash functions as well. So it's like efficient or more efficient for finding like the preimage of a hash function or finding hash collection in a hash function. But the point is that this is just a square root performance improvement. So this is not as fast as for instance the Shor algorithm. So there's efficient mitigation technique for against the Groover algorithm. Usually just an increased key size help. So it's not so critical. So why is this matter in blockchain and practically out of blockchain as well? It's because we got like many mission critical use cases. I mean, with blockchain as well, but if we just consider classical financial or even a mortgage industry, IT systems, these are mission criticals as well. So for instance, we have like payment usually, or we have store of value, if you consider like cryptocurrency or stable coins. So it's like, you know, if a hacker can hack like a payment system with a quantum computer, yeah, that's not so good, I would say. It can be more critical if we use something for store of value, because if you consider store of value, then store of value usually means like storing value for 10, 20, or 30 years, or for a lifetime. So if like Bitcoin can be hacked by quantum computers in 5 years or in 10 years, that's probably not the best thing what can happen. So we get like other use cases as well that can be mission critical. So if you consider like deposit tokens, tokenized commercial bank deposits, or financial use cases, it's like tokenized bonds, for instance. I mean, if you just speak of blockchain, or if we just go more to like decentralized finance world, these are all use cases that are, mission critical, shouldn't really be hacked. These are like high impact hacked and problems as well. And we can consider like identity as well, especially with blockchains. There are some identity initiatives. So these are more hybrid solutions with verifiable credentials and stuff like that. But they usually contain like blockchain component as well. And then the use cases are here like identity cards, passports, a driving license, and so on. So again, I mean, these shouldn't be hacked either by quantum computers. So what I'm going to cover here in the next few slides is a high-level blockchain quantum threat analysis. It's not blockchain specific, so it's high-level enough that apart from some or few specific points, you can use for a general IT system first-level threat analysis as well. And what I'm going to consider, these are like 5 or 5 plus 1 step. First step is like having a threat model of the system. So we usually speak of an IT system. It can be blockchain, but it can be without blockchain as well. But the first idea is just to have like an assessment, which can be the threats or attack points or points of attacks of such a system. The next one is impact analysis. So supposing there's a successful quantum hack of the system, or part of the system is successfully quantum hacked, what's going to be the impact? Is it something that's perhaps nobody recognizes, or is it like a couple of 100 millions of loss, or thousands of millions of loss? The next step is quantum readiness. So how far we are, how far is a possible attack in terms of quantum computer development. Number 4 is prevention possibility. Is it easy to mitigate these risks? Is it easy to upgrade to a kind of a post-quantum or quantum resistant system? And then we got something which is like an overall risk evaluation and some organizational aspect of such a quantum threat analysis. So let me start with the first one, and that's threat model. And then just on a high level, any kind of IT system can be assessed from a threat model perspective in two ways, I would say, or for the first one in two ways. So first, we can have something, so we can just evaluate which is the type of attack or which is the type of threat that can affect our system. And it's perhaps important to recognize that there's not just one kind of or not just one type of an attack or threat, but there can be many. So we can say there might be an attack or an effect or a threat against authenticity, against integrity or consistency of a blockchain, for instance, against privacy or confidentiality, against availability. So there might be a denial of service attack, and against like authorization. So there's like a privilege which shouldn't be elevated in a sense. And there might be some economical threats and attacks as well. I mean, especially like in the DeFi space, these are more common. So that's not just an attack or a threat, but there can be like, like a privacy threat is probably different than an integrity or availability threat. So that's one model. The second one, which is typical as well, if we speak of like quantum computers, is like having kind of a cryptographic inventory. Because I mean, for the first one, quantum computers gonna probably crack the cryptographic part. There might be other attacks as well with quantum computers, but for the first one, we just consider Shor and Groover algorithms like hacking digital signature and hacking hash functions. So an idea might be just to collect all of the cryptographic elements that we use in our system. So we usually have like digital signatures. It's like, if we speak of blockchain, that's elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. That's for signing and for integrity and authenticity. Then we can have like hash functions. That's for ledger consistency. We can use hash functions for mining. That can be a little bit tricky as well, because mining can be hacked in a special way with quantum computers as well. More tricky that we can use like hash functions for key derivation, like in wallets, which is like a pseudonymization. So it's like if that pseudonymization is cracked, then that's practically an attack against privacy, against confidentiality. It's more tricky. I'm not quite sure if there's like efficient quantum attack against random generation, but like pseudo-random generation or cryptographically secure pseudo-random generation is a big issue in all of the blockchain systems, actually in all of the IT systems. So if there's gonna be like a hack against like pseudo-random generation, that will be surely an issue. And then lastly, I mean, there's like a boom in different blockchain algorithms and protocols in all of the boom of different cryptographic protocols in all of the blockchain systems. So like most typically advanced crypto is used, like zero knowledge proofs, like Rho16 more typically, which is like not quantum secure at all. That's used, for instance, in rollups for authenticity and confidentiality. So again, that's the threat model, and well, I would say threat model can be tricky, pretty tricky as well itself. So the next one is impact analysis, and then impact means supposing we have a successful attack, what does it cause? What's the impact of it? We can somehow measure like economic impact as well. So like consider that we get like a CryptoKitty, which worth one piece of CryptoKitty, which worth like $1. So if that one CryptoKitty is hacked, that's like a loss of $1, which might not be so tragic basically. But if like the Bitcoin protocol is hacked and all of the funds are lost from the Nakamoto addresses, that's like the first couple of thousands of addresses, I would say that's a couple of like hundreds or $1 billion of loss, direct financial loss and indirect financial loss in terms of loss in reputation as well. So having like an exact impact analysis is difficult, but what we can do, we can have like a scale. So we can just somehow have like, 3 categories and saying an impact can be low impact, again, like stealing $1 CryptoKitty, it can be a medium impact and it can be a high impact as well, which is like, stealing all of the, or quantum cracking all of the Nakamoto addresses in the Bitcoin protocol. The next one is tricky as well, which is called quantum readiness. And the question is, when do we expect that quantum threat will be real? And then it depends on many things. First, it depends on the number of quantum bits, but it's not so easy. I mean, this one figure is usually not enough because usually different quantum computers have like different error rates. And then different publications supposes different error rates as well. So, but just having an idea that this threat is basically not, something which is a science fiction, I just have one picture here, which is the IBM Quantum Cloud Service. And then you already have the possibility to run programs on quantum computers. So again, it's a quantum cloud. So like IBM have like quantum computers somewhere up to 150 qubits, sorry. And supposing you just implement your quantum circuit or quantum gate or small quantum programs, then you can run your program on the IBM quantum cloud. So this is like 150 qubits. And then, well, it is estimated that like cracking real-world RSA would require like 150,000 qubits in a classical sense. But again, this is like just an estimation, and the world is changing pretty fast as well. So again, this is like the classical quantum computing, like having circuits and gates in a classical sense. If we speak of like quantum annealing, the situation is pretty different. In quantum annealing, again, that's for optimization and simulation. But I think you have like a couple of like thousands and 10,000 qubit computers as well. And the world is changing. So again, this like last news that even hybrid models can be used for cracking RSA is something which is sometimes just shocking. So without like too much theory, I mean, the best idea for the first run is just to have like, again, 3 scales, 3 categories. If it's like red, yellow, and green. So if we expect that like quantum computers can break a certain thing like in 10 years, I would say it can be likely for like a digital signature. If we assume that it can happen like in 10 and 20 years, and if we expect like that it's going to happen like in more than 20 years. So again, it's just classical green, yellow, and red. And one of the last point, which is prevention possibility. It's the question is, so what do we do if that happens? Do we have a plan to prevent this quantum attack? Do we know what if the quantum risk will be there? So I mean, if the quantum risk will be there for tomorrow, not just for not just in 5 years. Do we have an idea what we know basically? And that's a complex question as well, because it depends on the threat, it depends on the used cryptographic primitives as well, and it depends on a lot of things as well. Generally, what we can do, in some sense, or in some cases, we can simply increase the key size. So if we have like symmetric ciphers or hash algorithms, then we can just use increased key size or increased size of hash algorithms. It's gonna be enough, because as far as we know, only the Groover's algorithm can crack these cryptographic primitives, and it is not fast enough, basically, or not as fast as for instance the Shor algorithm. If we have like digital signature, then the situation is more tricky, because that cryptographic primitives are totally cracked. So what we can do, we can use something which is a post-quantum cryptography. Post-quantum cryptography is like computer algorithms that are run on classical computers, but secure against quantum attack. And I would say the whole field is getting to be hyped again, because we have the first post-quantum cryptographic standards. That's from NIST. And then basically they had like a challenge which was taking like, I don't know, 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a competition, worldwide competition, having the first post-quantum cryptographic standards. And the first 3 were standardized actually at the end of this summer. So we get the first post-quantum cryptographic standards, one for key exchange and two for digital signature algorithms, based on something different than like prime factorization. It's like lattice-based, for instance, or hash-based digital signatures, which we believe at the moment that they cannot be cracked or hacked by quantum computers. And there are some more cryptographic standards coming, basically. So as we basically have the first standards of post-quantum cryptographic algorithms, I mean, we can start brainstorming if we can build in somehow in our system, if we can upgrade our system to have these algorithms. One thing that might be a possibility, but it's pretty much in a research and development field, which is quantum cryptography. For quantum cryptography is realized by quantum computers, which still in an infancy, but nevertheless there are theoretical investigations to use quantum computers for certain cryptographic primitives, and there are even practical applications as well. So, for instance, you can have like random number generation based on quantum physics. That's not really quantum computer, but the random is generated by a quantum physical effect or a quantum physical device. So practically that's going to be a real random. And there are like ideas for key exchange. That's by a laser. It's again not really a quantum computer, but uses quantum physical effects for realizing like a key exchange, like something similar like in a TLS protocol. And just having one thought, a lot of information that is written or that are written into the ledger, and everything which is written to the ledger is immutable, so it can't be changed practically. So I just try to slow down. Perhaps my internet is a little bit like buggy at the moment. But just back to the topic, as soon as we got blockchain and we write something into to the ledger, and that's immutable, that's gonna be stored there forever. So the problem is that we usually write like cryptographic primitives into the ledger as well, like digital signatures. So upgrading like a blockchain to a post-quantum secure version is more challenging just because of these ledger-dependent upgrades, just because of the signatures and cryptographic data that is actually written into the ledger. So two last slides. These are not so like tech heavy, I would say. So of course, this is like kind of a risk evaluation. It's always a good idea to have like an overall risk evaluation. And as basically it's just a high level evaluation. So it wasn't like quantitative, rather qualitative. Then the overall risk evaluation is like qualitative as well. So basically, if we have like a high impact risk, it is expected to have like in 10 years, and we have no idea how to prevent it or how to mitigate it. That's of course a high level risk. So actions should be taken. If we have something which is like, like a medium impact risk, it is expected like in 20 years, and we might as well have, or we don't know the exact prevention process, but we might as well have some ideas. That's like a medium risk. And if we have like a medium or low impact attack or threat, and then it is expected in more than 20 years, and we have a good prevention process, that's kind of a low risk. So again, it's like just overall risk evaluation on a quantitative level. And one last slide. This was like a general high level quantum threat analysis. I mean, of course, it should be executed in a more detailed version. So it might take like weeks or months to figure out the details. But generally, what's a good idea is just to consider some organizational aspects. It means this is not like a workshop that is executed once. Rather, it's like a workshop that should be executed on a regular basis, like every year, or if the quantum threat is nearer, like every 6 months. And then, of course, the first evaluation is the trickiest. That's like the most challenging. After that, it's going to be probably easier. But having the first evaluation, as soon as we evaluate our plan, of course, what should be considered like advancements in quantum computers like the amount of qubits. That's always a question. And I would say the improvement is not necessarily linear, but sometimes it's just exponential. So we might as well like 150 qubits at the moment, but perhaps in 2 years, we're going to have like 50,000. I don't know. What should be considered is something which is new quantum algorithms. We got like two relevant algorithms for cryptography. That's like the Shor and Groover's algorithm. But yeah, I mean, the world is changing. So there might be like new research directions. Again, this hybrid approach was one of them. But there might be like in 2 years something totally new, which might even crack or totally hack like, I don't know, post-quantum algorithms that we believe at the moment that they are quantum secure. Then there can be like what should be evaluated is like new results in attacking classical cryptographic with quantum. There might be even totally new attacks as well. So again, like one attack was like a quantum attack again against mining, which is pretty tricky, but and not necessarily realistic. But I mean, like 4 years ago, it was believed that mining cannot be really hacked by quantum computers. Then it's always a question, what's the advancement in post-quantum cryptography or quantum cryptography? And then of course, yeah, like technical and economic feasibility of these elements should be considered as well. So again, that's like a process that should be evaluated like in years or 6 months. And then, well, again, so blockchains are practically the most vulnerable against quantum computer attacks, but they are investigated pretty heavily. In terms of classical IT infrastructure, theoretically, they can be migrated in an easier to a post-quantum version, but it is believed that, I mean, most of the classical IT infrastructure are used by big organizations or huge organizations. So simply like planning such a migration to a post-quantum version might take like years, and not just because of the technical issues or the technical challenges, but simply because the organizational challenges. So that was my presentation today. I apologize for the technical issues, and then if we still have questions, then I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. That was a great presentation, very informative. I think we do have a couple questions, but as the moderator, I'm going to take full advantage of being able to ask the first question. I attended an RSA conference way back in the day. One of the things that they touted to talk about the security of their infrastructure was that the supercomputers of the day could run constantly for what they were saying, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 years before their encryption could be cracked. And now with the advent of quantum computing, I think what you and other people are saying is conceivably within the next 30 years, that level of cryptography, that level of security can be cracked within 20, 30 years. So assuming that my interpretation, granted overly simplistic, is correct, then what can we as technologists go to get that same level of security again? And how much of an effort is that going to be? Because RSA, they're not, at least to my knowledge, trying to advocate for any post-quantum cryptography. Only NIST is doing that. And I'm not sure if my question is clear.
Yeah. I mean, I get the point. Yeah, absolutely. So in classical cryptography, what we usually say that there's an algorithm which is computationally infeasible to crack. And computationally infeasible means that you have a computer which can run like 2 times more than the whole lifetime of the universe, and still the probability of cracking that algorithm is minor or is small or practically zero. That's like computationally infeasible. And in cryptography, usually this concept is used. But the problem is that computational infeasibility in classical cryptography means computationally infeasible with classical computers. So if you have like classical computers, even supercomputers, but with classical architecture, with non-quantum physical aspects, then having these classical computers and running like 2 times as the whole lifetime of the universe, you still cannot break crypto. That still holds. The problem is that this quantum computational infeasibility does not cover quantum computers. So practically, what we need is computationally infeasible to break with quantum computers, which is still being developed somehow in a way. So like RSA is computationally infeasible to break with classical computers, but it's not computationally infeasible to break with quantum computers. So as soon as you have like big enough quantum computers that might come in 10 years, you can break RSA with big enough quantum computers in minutes. So that's gonna happen. So as soon as we have like big enough quantum computers, you can break classical crypto or some classical crypto in like minutes or hours. And that's the threat. Actually, that's the attack factor. And what's
So
coming?
then, Daniel, continuing on with that scenario, if I'm B of A and I implemented my infrastructure based on RSA security, what we're saying is within 20 years, that security is no longer sufficient.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Daniel, I'm curious. You think about AI, and it was just November of 2022 when ChatGPT was released. That was only 2 years ago. And for me, it's amazing to see how much AI has changed our environment and our conversations and technology focus in just a 2 year period. As we're talking about quantum computers now, I keep hearing 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, these will be big concerns. Are we potentially at that launching point right now where, hey, 2 years from now, we're going to be sitting around talking about quantum computing and the major impacts that it's having on our daily lives? Or do you think it's still going to take a, considerably longer amount of time, a decade or so to really get to that point?
Yeah, I would estimate a decade. So it's like I don't know, 7 to 10 years until we get the first real impact from quantum computers. It's just generally it is proposed to start such a brainstorming and start thinking of like migrating IT systems to a post-quantum version. It's because having like a complex IT system and organization, such a migration might take like actually 10 years. So that's the reason that this topic is pretty much hyped, because if we want to migrate your IT system to a post-quantum version in like 7 to 8 years, then you should start planning now. That's the best practice at the moment.
Did we have any other questions from the audience? We're down to the top of the hour. So one last question for Daniel before we all sign off.
Yes, Jeff Privilege. I just had one. I was looking for Daniel's opinion. At what point do you think you look at, let's take Bitcoin, for example, it's got this massive price on it and these coins are out there. At what point do you think, in just your opinion, where rumors could come out that somebody has got the ability to crack the public-private keys and grab your coins, which would cause a massive devaluation of those? Do you see any government or anybody out there that you think we have the capability to say we're very close, or we think we can do this now, and then all of a sudden those coins become, because of the danger of losing it, everybody's trying to sell them? Do you see that in the near future, within 5 years even?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I would guess like it in 7 to 10 years that might come. But so in terms of Bitcoin, so Bitcoin normally has like so the address generation looks that way, that there's like a digital signature and there's a hash function on top. So generally it's not so easy to quantum break most of the addresses or signatures in Bitcoin. except for the first thousands of addresses, which are the Nakamoto addresses, which are based purely on elliptical digital signature without having like an additional hash functions. So they are pretty much vulnerable against quantum attacks. And then these addresses never moved. I mean, the money on that addresses never moved practically. So I would say as soon as we see that the Nakamoto addresses and the amount of Bitcoin on the Nakamoto addresses start moving, I would say that's gonna be like the signature of a successful quantum attack.
Okay, that was a great question. So guys, that's the canary in the coal mine. Okay, we are 2 minutes past the hour, so in respect for people's time, we're going to go ahead and stop it right there. Daniel, again, thank you so much. This was a great presentation, very interesting. Daniel's contact information is being shared on the screen. Thank you, everyone, for attending. As James said, this is our last meeting for the year. We will reconvene again in January of 2025. So thank you, everyone, and happy holidays.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you in the new year.